Hi, it's just a 1 minute to 3, so logging on here. We'll wait to see if anybody joins us, because I did announce it again this week. It's the last day of February. Can you believe tomorrow's March 1st? And we'll be jumping ahead the clocks on the 11th. Oscars are on Sunday. Hopefully nobody will get the wrong envelope. They won't have any snafus like they did last time. There's a really good article in The Hollywood Reporter that a friend shared on Facebook that I saw the other day that had a most amazing picture of all the faces of everybody in the audience when that happened. So I'm excited. If you're not signed up for our newsletter, it's going out tomorrow. And we have some new lock screens for your phones for you to use to inspire you whenever you go back to your phone. The themes for this month are bloom, in honor of the buds coming out on their trees, and create, and simplicity. So they're really beautiful. I love them this month, and we'll be sending those out tomorrow along with our curated material. We have an article about ways to deal with stress, and another article from Forbes about the science behind meditation and some of the findings there. And we're going to talk about the theme that we're talking about today. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm Cassandra Marcella Metzger. Welcome to Wellspringer Wednesdays. This is a weekly show where I share insights and strategies and resources so that you can have ease despite disease. I am a yoga therapist, a certified yoga therapist. I'm a writer, and I help people who live with illness to feel more beautiful, to feel more peaceful, and to have more agency and meaning in their lives. So I'm really glad that you're here. I don't know how many of you watched Mad Men, but there's a scene where Bobby, the youngest of Don and Betty's children, comes into his parents' bedroom in the middle of the day, and Betty's in bed. And Bobby goes, "I'm bored." And Betty says to him, "Only boring people are boring." Or only boring people are bored. And I remember when I saw that, how that stung, because I'm bored all the time, being sick and in bed. And it can be very, very hard to feel interesting when you're not doing anything and you're not working and you can't get out and you haven't done anything and you're just shut in. So I remember when I first got sick, I was very grateful that I had a laptop. It was about this thick and it would heat up on my bed, so I had to put it on the nightstand. And I was grateful that NPR allowed you to move their stories around so you could listen to them in whatever order you wanted. You actually had that option. And I listened to C-SPAN because that was the most interesting thing I could find. I know I'm probably a little bit of a geek, but it was when the 2000 election was being contested. So there were a lot of legal arguments, and I watched all of that on C-SPAN. So obviously since then, since 2000, the internet has matured quite a bit in 18 years. So there's a lot more to do and to see. And so that's kind of what we're focusing on today. My goal is to provide to you some interesting, fascinating things for you to explore and to engage your mind so that you can have something to talk about with the people in your lives, so that you can feel like that you are interesting and interested. So I hope you like these. Stick around to the end because I'd love to hear if you guys have any of you guys who tune in. Nobody yet, but hopefully we'll get somebody. We certainly be keen to hear of any of yours. So, and there are a variety of things. There's some websites, there's some streaming services, and some podcasts. On the website, I have something that I call the Fortune Chambers, where I keep and offer and divide into categories, different areas, evergreen resources that I turn to again and again and again. And the one that I'm focusing on today, obviously, is one for distractions, but I have one for nurturing and one for beauty and one for skills. I've got 4 out of 9 populated with the material, and I'll review that at the end for you guys. So the first one that I want to talk about is something from PBS Digital Studios called Blank on Blank. I first saw these when in between PBS shows, to be honest with you. And what they do is they take old radios, interviews, and animate them. And they are terrific. They have Grace Kelly talking about JFK. They have Ronald Reagan, I think, talking about oatmeal. They have Hitchcock talking about dead bodies. What else? George Michael on freedom. Marlene Dietrich on sex symbols. But three of my favorites are one with Louis Armstrong talking about his chops. And I love that one, not just because it's Louis Armstrong and I love jazz, but also it's an interview that he did at New Trier in Winnetka, Illinois, where I lived until I was 3 and my cousins lived and I know very well. So that was really interesting. It was 2 high school students doing the interview. Another really fun one is Farrah Fawcett on stilettos and her using her shoes to get out of some sort of altercation, I think in a cab. That's also very funny. But the absolute best that I've heard that makes me cry and laugh every time is Larry King on Getting Seduced. And he talks about his first job in Miami and he goes to meet a woman while putting on a long record. He figured he had 30 minutes because the record was on one side was 30 minutes. I won't spoil it, but it's hilarious the way he tells it and what happened. So Blank on Blank videos, if you just Google that, you can find it. But I also have a link on my website on the under Fortune Chambers, and then go to distractions. So that's the first one I wanted to tell you about. The second one is a site called Nowness. And again, since I discovered these, there's so much more. It's such a rich rabbit hole for you to go down. Nowness describes their stated goal as, I'm going to read it because I don't want to get it wrong, creative excellence in storytelling, celebrating the extraordinary of every day. And they touch on art and design and fashion, and it's just, things are very, very, very beautiful that they have there. They use film as art. So one, for example, is on Sacha Cohen. She just had a wonderful op-ed piece in the New York Times about what it was like to be retired at 20. So there's one of her skating, but also talking about a little bit that transition, some of the things she alluded to in her op-ed piece, actually this Sunday, but this has been up for years, this film. So it's a beautiful film of her skating on the ice with like the fog of dry ice, but also really thoughtful and meaningful to listen to her talk. Another one that I love is with Ilsa Crawford on the design and everyday things, and she starts talking about a glass and how it's not perfect, but how important it is that the things that are in our everyday life are designed well and are useful and beautiful, or not just useful, but useful and beautiful. There's one on the Paris Opera Ballet, which of course I love. There's a bunch about ballet, and they have a series which is really good called In Residence, where they interview different artists and architects, designers in their homes. So that's really cool. I have a whole Pinterest board of writers with their desks. So I like to be able to be a voyeur and see about how artists work and what their environments are like. I think is absolutely fascinating. So that's one of their series that they have. They have another one on fashion on film too. So it's a little pretentious, a little artsy-fartsy, but I love it, and there's a lot there that you could enjoy. There's some that are just too weird, but none of them are very long, so you can easily move on quickly. Okay, the next one that I'm excited to share with you is Great Courses Plus. I've been a fan of them for over 20 years when they were doing it on cassette tapes. My mom was a fan. They take basically well-reputed professors from around the country and record their classes. The ones on music are especially good because you can hear the ideas that the lecturer is talking about, and then they'll do an example. So like Jim Messenger has one on the elements of jazz and how jazz evolved in this country. That's absolutely fantastic. Elizabeth Van de Veer is another really good lecturer that I enjoy very much. She talks about the classics. So she's made the Aeneid very interesting. She has a course on the Odyssey and on the Iliad as well. But they used to be that you had to buy them, either as on cassette tapes, then they went to DVDs, and they have usually like a syllabus, sometimes a very thick book that goes with it that you could buy. But now they offer subscription service, and it is $20 per month if you pay it by month, or $15 if you pay it by the year, which comes out to about $180. And they now also have like cooking classes, and they have photography courses, and I also saw a great series on the history of Eastern Europe. But they cover all sorts of things, and so it's really, really enjoyable. Sorry, I forgot to turn something off. I'm still getting used to doing this live. So I thought if I closed that app that nothing would pop up. And I even tested it, but it didn't work. So I apologize for that. Let's see, what else do I want to say about great courses? Yeah, so they have also things about health too, which is really great, about meditation or food and nutrition. The cooking courses, though, I've really been enjoying lately. I got some beans last week, and I didn't know what the heck to do with beans. So I looked to see if there was a class on how to prepare the beans, and there was. So, and it's demonstrated, and you can find, pretty much anything you need. They have a whole course on cooking vegetables. So that's pretty good, too. Okay, next one. Acorn TV. So there's a lot of streaming services out there. Acorn TV is one that features British television. So if you're a fan of PBS, like I am, that's where I used to work, it's a great service to try. It's only $5 a month, and they have series like A Place to Call Home, which is like the Downton Abbey of Australia. I'm enjoying right now a great series called Girlfriends, about women in their late 50s, early 60s, I think, with Natasha Richardson and Phyllis Logan, who was also in Downton Abbey, and Zoe Wanamaker. Really great, well acted. It's 6 episodes, and it's just delightful, a delightful distraction. And they also have documentaries, which are interesting, on the Russians, his history, and other things, on the Egyptians, I think. And then they also have really old, good classics. So they have Foyle's War, that was popular, 10 years ago, with Michael Kitchen, which was great. And even Danger UXB, which is a series from the 80s that featured my high school crush. All right, hang on a second. I got to figure out how to silence this. I don't know how to do that, so never mind. We'll just have to let them bing. Okay. Yeah, so Danger UXB is another one to nicely check out. Actually, one of the reasons I decided to do this, and I didn't put this on my list, is because of FilmStruck, which just recently was announced in the New York Times, is taking on the library of Turner Classic Movies. So they have the Criterion Collection and now Turner Classic Movies, and it's absolutely fantastic as a streaming service if you like classic films. They have a lot of foreign films, the kind of films that you can't find anywhere else. The National Gallery of Art here in DC will often show these films that you can't find anywhere else for free in their beautiful auditorium on Sundays. And FilmStruck has those kinds of films that are lost, or just they never get replayed anywhere, and they're not streamed anywhere. So I'll put an article or a link below about FilmStruck and what the New York Times says about it and how you can get it and what the price is. Okay, next is a website called Brain Pickings by Maria Popova. Now, she describes her website as, let me get this right. Human-powered discovery engine for interestingness. So she is not Google, and that's really unusual in this day and age. She'll really use actual books, and will sometimes do screenshots of them and collect them. I mean, Gawker said it. The now defunct Gawker, I think, described it as BuzzFeed, but for boring people. So it sounds perfect for me. I'm pretty bored. She usually ties it into, a birthday or whatever. It'll be historical figures. It'll be literary figures. It'll be about subjects. And it's just, It's just really a great website. I really encourage you to check it out. You'll be intrigued and distracted for days. So that is number 5. Number 6 is the first of the 2 podcasts I wanted to feature. In Our Time with Melvin Bragg. It's 45 minutes long. It's from the BBC. He talks super fast, but that's okay because you get a lot of information, and he usually has 3 guests, academics. They're very erudite and smart and knowledgeable about whatever they're talking about, and they have a variety of subjects that they discuss. So it'll be science. So, for example, they'll talk about fungus on one episode, fungi, or dinosaurs. They'll also talk about literature, so like plays like Hamlet or Wuthering Heights was a recent episode. They'll do historical events like the Siege of Malta or the Battle of Lincoln from 1217, or an episode about the Picts and who the Picts are and how they're integrated into English history and into British history. They even had an episode on Picasso's Guernica, so they'll do it on a piece of art. Or they'll do biography too, so they'll do just a whole episode just on Beethoven or on Cicero, or, I mean, and it's fantastic. It's super interesting about a variety of subjects. It's intelligent, and you'll definitely learn a lot. So that's my 6th recommendation. My 7th is a podcast that is just finishing up, done by Slate. You probably maybe have heard of it. It's called Slow Burn, and it's political history. So if you're not interested in politics and you're not interested in history, you may not like this, but I'm interested in both. I was a double major in both of those in college, and I knew a lot about Watergate, which is what the subject is. And they decided to do this topic because a lot of people are making comparisons of our current time to then, to figure out where we're rhyming and where we're repeating. It starts out, it's just 8 episodes. What distinguishes this, though, I think, from most other podcasts is it's really great storytelling. Leon Neyfakh is the host, and he did all the research and the writing. And the first episode starts out talking about Martha Mitchell, who was John Mitchell's wife, who I remember hearing about when I was a kid. She was known as the Mouth of the South, and she drank a lot, and she talked to reporters all the time, and she eavesdropped on her husband, and she was basically a loose cannon in the administration that they were trying to control. And in fact, at one point she was kidnapped by some of her husband's security guards or agents so that she couldn't see the news to find out what was going on. So that was really interesting, the way he puts it together. He also has an episode where he talks about how people were buying lie detectors to hold them up to the TV to see if people were lying. So that was terrific. It's funny to see which things repeat. And then obviously he talks about the Saturday Night Massacre and some other things, which, you know, I knew a lot of, but I didn't know everything. I definitely learned a lot. I was a pretty animated 8-year-old, animated by politics when I was 8 because of my mom. And I even got to see a live broadcast of the show later. I apologize for this. I got a new computer this weekend, and I don't know what I did wrong. My computer of 8 years crashed, so I apologize for all the bings. Yeah, so this Slow Burn is a really, really fun and terrific thing to listen to. And I highly recommend it. One other thing I wanted to mention, if you are a member of Slate Plus, which I think is only $35 a year, they have a bunch of bonus materials, which also is absolutely fantastic. All the bonus stuff is pretty good as well. So I think it's worth it to become a member of Slate Plus and to be able to listen to all of that. Okay, and the last one I want to highlight for you is the BBC radio collection on Audible, which is absolutely also fantastic. I don't know about you, but I like, when I listen to audiobooks, to have them dramatized. I just find it more interesting, you know, to have it sort of read like an old-fashioned radio play. So they have like Fatherland by Richard Harris is a good one on there. They have a lot of the Shakespeare plays. So I recommend checking that out as well. So that's all I got for today. I hope that you found those useful and interesting, that you might want to check them out. I will put the link to my fortune chamber down below where I have these listed. All the links for all of these things that I've talked about, so you can just go directly there. The one thing I don't have there is the piece about FilmStruck, so I'll just put that here in the comments. Yeah, so our fortune chambers that we have up now are amusements, beauty, distractions, which is what I talked about today, and nurturing. And the ones to come are enlightenment, inspiration, peace, relationships, and skills. So those will be populated over the months to come. Again, if you've not checked them out, if you just go to our website, wellspringstones.com, go to resources, and in the pull-down menu, there's an area called Fortune Chambers, and you can find them there. And again, please sign up for our newsletter if you're not yet a Wellspringer and not signed up. We've got a great one going out tomorrow, and I'm very excited about the lock screens. Thank you so much. This was a little longer than I wanted, and again, apologies for the pings. I have to figure out, I thought if I closed out the app, it wouldn't do that. So I apologize for that distraction. But I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week for Wellspringer Wednesdays. Bye-bye. Have a great week.